Good afternoon, and welcome to the City of Los Angeles Permanent Alfresco presentation on alfresco dining in the coastal zone. If you have questions during this presentation, please feel free to add them into the Q&A chat box. Our staff will be able to answer some of your questions during the presentation. There will be dedicated question and answer time at the end of this presentation. I'll now pass it over to Jeff Cow with Council District 11. Jeff?
Hello, and thank you for joining us for a webinar focused on helping businesses participate in the Alfresco program. My name is Jeff Cow, and I'm the Planning and Transportation Deputy for Council District 11. Today's webinar will focus on special requirements for restaurants with alfresco outdoor dining in the coastal zone. Before we get started, a few notes. This webinar is being provided in Spanish as well. Si necesita traducción en español, presione el botón de traducción y elija español. The new alfresco application is being presented today is required of all businesses seeking a permanent permit for alfresco outdoor dining, including businesses that have a temporary authorization acquired during the COVID-19 local emergency period. Today's webinar will be recorded and posted online at buildla.lacity.org/alfresco, along with all answers to questions submitted today. Past webinars are also accessible through this website. If you have any questions, feel free to type them out in the Q&A chat, which can be found in the Zoom menu. Our presenters will answer these questions at the end of the presentation. You'll also have an opportunity to raise your hand and ask questions verbally at the end of our presentation if you prefer. With that, I'd like to go over today's agenda and introduce you to our presenters. First, Juliet O from the City Planning Department will kick things off with a presentation on the background of the Coastal Act, the Coastal Zone, and coastal development permits. She will also cover the different types of permits needed for outdoor dining. Next, we'll pass it on to Joel Williams from the Department of Building and Safety, who will discuss the process for applying for an outdoor dining permit on private property. He will be joined by Anna Vidal and Ronnie Huron from the City Planning Department, who will talk about what your business needs in order to obtain coastal development permit. Following that, a summary of on-street dining will be provided by Jacqueline Garcia from the Department of Transportation. Then we will pass it on to Tanat Sadiqit from the Bureau of Engineering, who will provide an overview of outdoor dining on sidewalks. Following that, Mary Richardson from the Planning Department will explore the concept of a programmatic CDP. The application portal is now open and accessible via buildla.lacity.org/alfresco. Before I hand it over to our presenters, I'd like to first spend a few minutes emphasizing the need for businesses with a temporary authorization to apply early. The temporary authorization will officially end on July 31st, 2024. Please note that it will take time for you to create site plans, make adjustments to your alfresco area, and pass inspections by the city. It is therefore crucial for you to apply early to ensure that you have enough time to complete an application. Throughout this presentation, we'll talk about the different permitting requirements needed to obtain a permanent alfresco permit. The permitting pathways differ for a transitioning operator compared to a new operator. Transitioning operators are those operators who have a temporary authorization under the city's temporary outdoor dining program. New operators are those operators who want to apply for a permanent outdoor dining permit but did not participate in the alfresco temporary program. You can email ladot.alfresco@lacity.org to find out whether you have a temporary authorization. Now, I'm going to hand it off to Juliet O to talk about coastal zone requirements.
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juliet O, and I'm one of the senior city planners with the Department of City Planning's West-South Project Planning team. I'm going to provide a quick overview of the city's coastal zone, the Coastal Act, and requirements for new development in the coastal zone. So what is the Coastal Act? The Coastal Act was passed in 1976, and it did a couple of things. It defined the boundaries of the coastal zone, established the Coastal Commission, and created regulations and policies to guide new and existing development in the coastal zone. The coastal zone generally extends 1,000 yards inland from the sea and is comprised of areas that are under the jurisdiction of local government and the Coastal Commission. The maps above show the various coastal areas of the city. From left to right, the city's coastal zone extends from the Pacific Palisades to Venice, Playa del Rey, San Pedro, Wilmington, and around to the Port of Los Angeles. The city's coastal zone is comprised of the single permit jurisdiction area, shown in yellow, and the dual permit jurisdiction area, shown in dark purple. Those areas in light purple are where only the Coastal Commission has jurisdiction. As I mentioned, the Coastal Act includes regulations and permitting requirements cities must implement. In the single permit areas, development is subject to review by the city for compliance with the Coastal Act. However, in the dual permit areas, which are areas closer to the coast, development requires review by two agencies for compliance with the Coastal Act, first by the city and then by the Coastal Commission. Now you may be thinking, what type of work or activity is subject to review? Well, any work or activity that meets the Coastal Act definition of development is subject to review for compliance with the requirements of the Coastal Act. In the city of Los Angeles, development is subject to some level of review by both the city and the Coastal Commission. Development includes any new construction, grading, a change in density or intensity of use of land, construction, reconstruction, demolition, or alteration of the size of any structure, and so on. Now that we understand the definition of development, are outdoor dining areas considered development? The answer is yes. Development includes the expansion of dining area on private property or in the right-of-way. This is considered a change in intensity of use. For a lot of operators, a new outdoor dining area may include new planters, a shade structure, construction of walls or fences, restriping the parking lot, the placement of tables or chairs, removal of existing parking spaces. All of this work is considered development and is subject to review. Separately, some applicants may be considering other work or improvement to the site or existing restaurant, separate from the actual establishment of the outdoor dining area. Again, the Coastal Act does apply, so any other work to the site is also subject to review under the Coastal Act. Some examples may be remodel or addition to the existing restaurant space or structure, grading, excavation, or landscaping, or a new valet stand or similar structures in the right-of-way. I also want to highlight that even a change of use is subject to review. Again, I want to highlight that all development in the coastal zone is subject to review by both the city and the Coastal Commission. The type of review required in the coastal zone varies depending on the scope of work and location of the property. The city has the authority to issue either a coastal development permit or a CDP, which is a discretionary review, or a coastal exemption, which is an administrative review. To be clear, all alfresco outdoor dining areas in the coastal zone are subject to a CDP level review and does not qualify for a coastal exemption. Both the Department of City Planning and Bureau of Engineering are authorized to issue CDPs. Which department will process the CDP? If you're proposing an outdoor dining area on private property, or both on private property and in the right-of-way, You will need to file a CDP application with the Department of City Planning. If your outdoor dining area is only in the right-of-way, you will be filing a CDP with the Bureau of Engineering's Environmental Management Group. Now let's walk through the CDP process. First, the operator will file a CDP application with either City Planning or Bureau of Engineering. Staff will review the application and materials for completeness. An environmental review will be conducted and confirmed. Next, staff will then prepare the case for a virtual public hearing, where members of the public can provide testimony and ask questions about the proposed development. Following the hearing, a determination letter will be issued to all required and interested parties. Then the city will hold a 15-day appeal period. After the appeal period ends, the city will send notice to the Coastal Commission to start a 20 working day appeal period. After the appeal period ends, you can visit the Planning Development Services Center to finalize your CDP. Now, if your property is located in the dual permit jurisdiction, you will need to apply for a second permit with the Coastal Commission after the end of the city's CDP process. So going back to the timeline shared at the beginning of the presentation, when should you file for a CDP? All operators should consult with the City Planning or Bureau of Engineering as soon as possible to file a CDP. Operators who are authorized under the temporary alfresco program and are transitioning to seek approval under the permanent ordinance can continue to operate until June 30th, 2026, due to the extension of the Coastal Commission's waiver. However, you still need an effective CDP to continue to operate after June 30th, 2026. So we encourage you to file as soon as possible to ensure the timely processing of a CDP prior to the 2026 deadline. Please note, we'll be providing more information about the council motion regarding a programmatic coastal development permit later in the presentation. If you have specific questions regarding the CDP process or requirements, you can contact the City Planning Project Planning team via email at planning.alfrescocdp@lacity.org. Now that we've provided an overview of the additional requirements for development in the coastal zone, let's dive back into the city's permitting process for alfresco outdoor dining areas. In previous webinars, staff from the Department of Building and Safety, Department of Transportation, Bureau of Engineering outlined what type of permit is needed for the specific types of outdoor dining areas and instructions for filing. In the next part of this webinar, we will provide high-level overviews of the permit process with LADBS and the revocable permit process with DOT and BOE. In addition, City Planning will outline the clearance requirements to satisfy the Coastal Act in each permit process. In previous webinars, staff from the Department of Building and Safety, DOT, and BOE outlined what type of permit is needed for the specific types of outdoor dining area and instructions for filing. You can find the link to previous webinars at the bottom of this slide. As a reminder, the location of outdoor dining permits will determine what type of permit is needed. Outdoor dining areas in the public right-of-way, that is on-street or sidewalk area, requires review and a revocable permit issued by the Bureau of Engineering. Keep in mind the Department of Transportation will also review those applications for on-street dining. And those outdoor dining areas on private property require a building permit with the Department of Building and Safety. With that, I'd like to invite Joel Williams from Building and Safety to discuss permitting for outdoor dining on private property.
Thank you, Juliet. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joel Williams with the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety. With me today are my colleagues, Monica Ramirez and Brendan Looney. The Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety previously presented in 2 Alfresco private property webinars. The first Alfresco private property webinar presented the Department of Building and Safety's permitting, inspection, and enforcement processes, along with certain items which are often requested by applicants, such as how to submit plans, permitting fees, and itemized plan requirements. The second webinar featured common information to help applicants maneuver through the permitting process. Both previous private property webinars are posted on the Alfresco Build-A-Lay website. Both the presentation slides and recordings are available for your reference. Today, I will be presenting the private property's coastal permitting aspect in regards to obtaining a building permit from the Department of Building and Safety. All businesses proposing private property outdoor dining within a coastal zone, including those which obtained an LA Alfresco temporary use authorization issued by the city, must now obtain a building permit from the Department of Building and Safety to maintain their outdoor dining operation. The images in this slide illustrate approved outdoor dining locations which predate this Alfresco ordinance. This slide illustrates the plan check review process. The plan check process is the review of building plans and structural calculations by a department plan check engineer to verify that the plans are in compliance with both zoning and building code requirements. This process varies in time as some of these steps are applicant dependent. The Department of Building and Safety predominant steps are shown in blue, while applicant dependent steps are shown in purple. After the plan is reviewed by our staff, corrections are issued. Within this stage, the applicant will receive the marked up plan with all the corrections, a correction sheet, and a clearance summary worksheet. Approval from other city departments and agencies is needed before a permit for outdoor dining area can be issued. After the plan check review, a clearance summary worksheet will be given to the permit applicant listing all the necessary approvals that must be obtained from these agencies, along with their contact information. On the right of the last page of the clearance summary worksheet, this page has all the enumerated departments which your project may have to obtain approval from. The clearance summary will list the department and specifically what clearance is required. Projects within a coastal zone will receive a clearance which will need to be approved for permit issuance. Both transitioning and new operators will need to obtain coastal clearance approval. After all plan corrections and clearances are approved, the permit will be issued. If a clearance is approved with conditions, those conditions will have to be completed before the permit is issued or finalized. Now, Anna from City Planning will talk about obtaining coastal clearance approval.
Thank you, Joel. Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Vidal, and I am one of the senior city planners with the Department of City Planning's Development Services Center. I'm going to provide a quick overview of planning clearances and CDP process for both transitioning and new operators. City Planning's Development Services Center, or DSC, provides planning clearances on the clearance summary worksheets that LADBS generates. For transitioning operators, I will provide details in the next slide. The new operators will need to file a Coastal Development Permit, or CDP, and I will provide details in the next slides after that. Final clearance will not be provided until the Coastal Development Permit has been utilized and cleared on the building permit. For transitioning operators, city planning will verify whether or not the applicant has an alfresco temporary authorization and is part of the Coastal Commission's CDP waiver. Once city planning verifies that information, we will provide the initial clearance and the transitioning operator will be allowed to proceed with finalizing building permits and continue the operation of their outdoor dining area. After this happens, transitioning operators must return to City Planning Department for the final CDP approval prior to June 30th, 2026. You will find all the information on how to file a CDP on the next slide. Once the final CDP is obtained, operators will need to file a supplemental building permit application with LADBS and return to city planning for the final CDP clearance on their supplemental permit. Any establishments requesting alfresco alcohol authorization for transitioning outdoor dining areas only and no other work may obtain a coastal zone waiver at the same time as the alcohol authorization through the department's Beverage and Entertainment Streamlining, or BEST unit. You may contact the BEST unit with questions by emailing them at planning.ccu@lacity.org. For new operators, you will need to file a Coastal Development Permit, or CDP, with the City Planning Department. You may go to our website to get all the applications that you will need to file at this link, which will be uploaded to the Build LA website. You will need a city application, the filing instructions, and the coastal development forms, which gives you all the instructions of what you need to provide for the case filing. We highly encourage all operators to read all documents, answer all the questions, and follow all directions. Submitting a complete application prevents delays in processing. It could take a minimum of 9 months to process a CDP. If you have a CDP filing question, you may contact the Metro DSC by emailing at planning.vigcounter@lacity.org. If you have any alcohol questions, we can refer you to the BEST unit, and their email is planning.ccu@lacity.org. Thank you. Now, I would like to pass it along to Jacqueline Garcia from the Department of Transportation to discuss the applications process establishing the alfresco on the street.
Thank you, Anna. This slide describes the application process if you are a temporary permit holder. As of today, about 75% of temporary permit holders on the street in the coastal zone have already submitted an application to us to keep their dining area past July. This means about 25% of businesses are still at step 1. This application only takes about 10 minutes to submit because it imports a lot of information from your existing temporary permit. So we encourage you to at least complete this step as soon as possible because it at least lets us know that you would like to keep your dining area long-term. Fees are not due at time of submittal. After you apply, we will need to do a brief site visit and summarize our findings into a letter, which I'll talk about shortly. You will then sign this letter, which is your way of acknowledging that you will have to make certain changes, and it tells us that you are still interested in moving forward. For businesses in the coastal zone, you will also be asked to sign an assumption of risk form, which is your acknowledgement that you will be going through this process of obtaining a revocable permit before you've obtained formal approval from the Coastal Commission, and you are agreeing to the risks associated with that. This process in the middle is where most businesses are at right now, which includes making any modifications to your dining area, submitting plans to us to approve, completing any clearances you have, and uploading your insurance. You do not want to feel rushed through this part of the process, so if you apply today, you will still have 2 more months to complete these steps. Your permit must be issued before July 31st, 2024 to have no impact to your outdoor dining operations. Not shown here is the requirement to obtain a coastal development permit by June 30th, 2026. Failure to obtain a CDP or complete the permit requirements by the deadline may result in permit revocation. The process for brand new applicants will be similar. The key differences are that when you submit your application, we will need to first confirm if you qualify for on-street dining. If you do, we will provide you with a conditions of approval letter. Once you sign and agree, we will go ahead and invoice you, and then you will be asked to submit plans for your dining area for city approval, and you will also be asked to obtain a coastal development permit clearance before obtaining a revocable permit. You cannot begin construction until all these steps are completed. We have already received almost 24 submissions for on-street dining. So if you're joining us today and have applied as a brand new applicant, please note at this time, we are still prioritizing our limited resources on getting existing businesses through the process due to their time sensitivity, but we hope to get back to you soon. Whether you're an existing business transitioning your temporary permit or you're a brand new applicant, you will receive a letter that looks similar to this in the early stages of your application. For existing businesses, this will be called a compliance letter and will serve several purposes. It summarizes your approved footprint and will note any modifications to that footprint. It will note any required modifications you need to make and the date they need to be corrected by. This letter also summarizes the plans you need to submit, other clearances you need to complete, and any other permit requirements like submitting your insurance. Lastly, this letter will specify your permitting fees and any grant dollars that will be reduced from your invoice. The intention of this letter is to summarize and consolidate all this information into one document. If you have any questions on the content of the letter, please ask us. For brand new applicants, this document will be called the Conditions of Approval Letter and will specify your approved footprint, the required barriers you have to have, and any plan submittals or clearances you need to complete. This does not give you authority to start installing or constructing, which will happen later in the process. I will now pass it to BOE to go over sidewalk dining.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Now I am going to go over the sidewalk dining revocable permit process. This is an overview of the revocable permit or R permit application process for transitioning applicants. For the transitioning applicants, there is an automated transition process in which the R permit will be issued automatically after the fee of $149 is paid. Before receiving the permit, the applicants will be required to comply with the disability access requirements and acknowledge that the permit requirements will be completed within 6 months after receiving the permit. There is no plan review as the permit is issued automatically. However, the applicants are required to also comply with Fresco rules from the temporary program. For the permit requirements, the applicants will be required to complete 3 permit requirements within 6 months after receiving the permit. The 3 requirements include 1. Provide proof of liability insurance. 2. Pay the sewer facility charge. 3. Sign and notarize the will of damages form. For the businesses in the coastal zone, in addition to the 3 requirements, the applicants must sign the assumption of risk form after receiving the R permit. The form will be provided by the appropriate BOE district office. Also, the applicants must obtain a coastal development permit or CDP by June 30th, 2026. Failure to obtain a CDP or complete the permit requirements by the deadline may result in permit revocation. For the new applicants, once they begin the online application, they will be required to submit a sketch or plan showing dimensions and provide a copy of the lease agreement. New applicants will be required to pay the Tier 1 fee of $556 for all new sidewalk dining applications. However, if BOE is required to do a field investigation due to discrepancies on the site conditions, the Tier 2 fee of $1,854 will be required. Also, for the cases where the Board of Public Works approval is required to deviate from the sidewalk dining policy, or there is a request to appeal the BOE decision to the board, the Tier 3 fee or actual cost is required. For the new applicants, BOE will perform a technical review of the proposed encroachments to verify that the designs are safe and suitable for the public right of way. The disability access requirements will be part of the review. Usually it takes about 1 week or less for the BOE review. After BOE accepts a design, the applicant will be required to complete all permit requirements. For the businesses in the coastal zone, the applicants will be required to obtain a coastal development permit or CDP prior to the permit issuance as part of the permit requirements. After all permit requirements are completed, the revocable permit will be issued. Lastly, if there is installation or construction in the public right of way, including fixed railing installation, an A permit will be required. Now, I will pass this on to my BOE colleague, Norman Mundy, to discuss on how to file a CDP with the Bureau of Engineering.
Thank you, Tanat. I'm Norman Mundy, and I'm with the Bureau of Engineering Environmental Management Group. If you will be filing an application for a revocable permit with the Bureau of Engineering, and you are in the coastal zone, you will also need to file your coastal development permit application with the Bureau of Engineering. To obtain a Bureau of Engineering CDP application and instructions for completing that application, please contact me via email at norman.mundy@lacity.org. And let me just spell that out. My email address is norman.mundy@lacity.org. Thank you, and I'll turn it over now to Mary Richardson with the City Planning Department.
I am Mary Richardson, and I'm part of the team in planning that's working on the programmatic CDP. In August of 2023, the City Council adopted a motion concerning a programmatic coastal development permit as a way of streamlining the permit process to help restaurants come into compliance with coastal development permit requirements. And a report has been prepared. City staff has been meeting with the Coastal Commission to discuss the programmatic coastal development permit, but this discussion is preliminary and the outcome is uncertain. The report has identified funds for a public access and parking study to recommend programs that would reduce the impact of displaced parking spaces on public access to the coast. Programs that have been discussed include the expansion of shuttle services, car share networks, etc. Discussion with the Coastal Commission is ongoing. The city will continue to explore the programmatic coastal development permit and recommend other business support options. Given the challenge of providing a programmatic coastal development permit before June 30th, 2026, when the Coastal Commission's waiver expires, coastal operators are advised to move forward now with their individual coastal development permit applications.
Thanks, Mary. So I'm going to talk about resources a little bit. To further assist all transitioning and new applicants, the following resources are now available. An online alfresco guide can be found at buildla.lacity.org/alfresco. It details requirements, costs, recording of past webinars, and answers to most frequently asked questions, including those from today's webinar. The site is the city's main hub for alfresco related information. We encourage everyone to review the ordinance in its entirety to help understand all regulations applicable to alfresco, including some regulations that we may not have covered today. We recommend everyone signs up for the information bulletin from the Department of Building and Safety to get access to resources and updates as they become available. The Department of Building and Safety has also created a video to help applicants submit an application. This video is available at buildla.lacity.org/alfresco. We encourage all businesses to consider signing up for the Restaurant and Small Business Express program if you need specific assistance to permits, plans, and inspection clearances. And if you need basic help applying online, please contact one of our city's 10 business source centers. Business consultants can provide assistance at no cost. To further assist all transitioning and new applicants, the following resources are now available. An online alfresco guide can be found at buildla.lacity.org/alfresco. And an LA Alfresco Disabled Access Toolkit is also available to learn about how to provide equal access to customers with disabilities in the public right-of-way. Also, the alfresco dining revocable permit procedures and requirements for both sidewalk and on-street can be found in those links listed above. Looking ahead, you can also expect the following. We know how difficult it may be to understand some of the design requirements, and to assist you, the city is working on an alfresco manual to help translate the policies into photos and graphs. This manual will become available soon. And by next year, we also hope to offer standard design plans to save businesses time and money. I want to thank you again for participating in today's webinar. To assist you, we have listed contacts for you to reach out to with any questions. With that, I would like to pass it to Denise to moderate a live Q&A. Denise?
Thank you, Jeff. While the majority of effective businesses are found in Council District 11, some of you will be located in Council District 15. I wanted to note that we are joined today by Amanda Enriquez, the Economic Development Deputy for Council District 15, for questions. Her contact information is present in this slide as well. We will now begin the live Q&A session. During the webinar, staff have already begun answering your written questions, so please check to see if yours may already have been answered before raising your hand. Please raise your hand or write in the chat box if you have a question now. We'll call on you in turn. Any unanswered questions will be posted with an answer to the website after the webinar. As people raise their hands, we'll begin with the written questions first. The first question comes from Julian Mehra. In regards to my previous, I apologize. It seems it's in reference to a different question. So I'll go to the next one. Eddie Navarrete asks, thank you for doing this webinar. Jacqueline, thank you for being responsive. Are you finding that applicants are having issues with insurance requirements for on-street or curbside dining? Has anyone been able to comply with insurance requirements so far? And are there city conversations on possible updates to these requirements? Does anyone from the on-street or curbside dining team have information about insurance?
Yeah, I can answer that. So I know our insurance requirements, the only questions we've been getting so far about automobile liability, which is one of our insurance requirements right now. The other ones, we haven't heard any issues or concerns to date. For automobile liability, I know that was set by our department's risk manager based on city risk management policies. So we're still trying to get additional information on this at this time to perhaps provide a Q&A or more information on this. But I was told that this requirement is because the permittees or the businesses will likely use vehicles for the transport of furnishings or structures, trash removal to offsite locations, installation, maintenance of equipment, etc. So basically any activity regarding the on-street dining area, even if it's going to Home Depot to buy supplies to furnish or decorate your on-street dining area. So essentially that is just a requirement to that any cars that are used in the in any operation regarding the on-street dining area is properly insured. Yeah, if there's any further questions on that, feel free to reach out to me at the email listed on this slide. And again, we are trying to get additional information on this from the city.
Thank you, Jacqueline. For clarification, that email is the DOT email at the beginning. We have another question from Julian regarding parking. So what happens to the Coastal Department parking requirements in existence to restaurants that are transforming parking lots into dining space? And then the follow-up question seems to be in regards to a different question. So could we get more information about parking lot conversion?
Sure, I can address this again. Juliet O with City Planning. Any reduction in existing or required parking will be analyzed as part of the coastal development permit application and the final determination letter. So what we're asking is that applicants provide some justification as to the reduction in parking, whether it's based on ADA requirements or other regulations or any reductions per state law. And staff will analyze and consider that as part of the coastal development permit. In certain scenarios, we will ask for perhaps a study to analyze parking demand, depending on the size and the number of parking spaces, the size of your outdoor dining area, and the number of parking spaces removed. But it's really going to be case by case. So we encourage folks to email us at planning.alfrescocdp if you have any specific parking questions.
Thank you, Juliet. We have a question from V. Nguyen. Have applicants been able to acquire professional liability in reference to insurance? Applicants are having issues with professional liability insurance requirements, not just auto. I don't have information. Jacqueline, do you have insight into professional liability insurance requirements?
Yeah, we do have professional liability requirements. I don't have like a specific blurb ready on what exactly that entails, on which I could provide more information by email. All I can see is to date, I have not heard any feedback or concerns regarding this particular requirement from restaurants. So happy to talk more about it.
Got it. Thank you. Um, Julian's question is in regards to parking. It seems to have been covered kind of in Jacqueline's previous answer. I don't see any raised hands or additional questions in the Q&A chat. If you have a question, I'll give it another minute or so for you to raise your hand or ask your question in the chat. Otherwise, we will be, oh, I see a raised hand from, I apologize, from Tyler Wilson. Tyler, you can unmute. Please ask your question.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you guys for taking the time to do this. It's been I'll be honest, an exhausting process. I feel like I've been in it forever. So during the temporary process, the system crashed and I was waiting to hear back and didn't get the on-street and didn't realize I didn't have the on-street. I guess this is for the not in the coastal zone. This is be a different location than why I'm here. But we've been in there for a while and we're just kind of waiting. I have the documentation, the system was down and I've been operating for 2 years with, I guess, without the right permit. Is there a way to remedy that, or I just get put at the end of the list in regards to the on-street?
So just to clarify, Tyler, this is about a restaurant not located in the coastal zone. Do you know if it was I apologize for clarification, was it private property, on street or sidewalk? And in the middle of your application, it crashed and you have to resubmit. Is that have I heard correctly?
In essence, the alfresco rollout was a bit choppy, if you recall, and changing and coming up very fast. And I actually, with multiple locations, it was tricky to figure it out. We ended up with on sidewalk permit, but we actually did on street. And at the beginning, I don't know if there was a difference and never really got the clarification until this process rolled out. So it looks like we don't have the on street. So I would be a transitioning business. And their emails to us currently state that they're just not going to address our application, but we've been in there for weeks waiting. Is there a timeline that they will get to us, or do we just have to keep waiting?
By they, would you clarify, do you know who you're in contact with which department it is?
Currently, I'm in contact with, well, emails are always
Okay.
busy.
Well, this seems like it might be best handled in an offline conversation following this webinar. Would you email, let me see.
I've
I'm
emailed so many people and I get kind of form emails back or
okay.
no responses.
Let me message you a different email for our office, for the mayor.business office, which I apologize, I thought I had put on the slide, but didn't. But I will, if you could give me some information about who you've emailed, I'll work to connect you to the correct department.
Great. And as far as the coastal zone, the process seems pretty long. It looks like we have till 2026. Am I hearing that correct? Or that's just for the secondary coastal zone process?
2026 is in reference to by secondary coastal zone process. Could you clarify what you mean?
There's so many abbreviations for all these things. I'm trying to get it straight and working with consultants and while running a restaurant. So I get a little bit vague. I apologize. So it looks like we have to go through the building and safety, and then we go from building and safety. We get some permit from them, which I'm currently waiting on, and I think a lot of us are probably waiting on. And then we have to go to the coastal zone, which last time I got a permit from the coastal zone or zone coastal department, it took 6 months. So I'm just waiting on understanding, like, am I doing it right? The emails and talking to somebody and setting up a meeting seems like it's been almost impossible. And our feedback that we get regarding the questions are very vague. So how do we go about setting up a call with somebody that like can give us an answer that's not, I guess, vague to the challenges we're
Yeah.
facing?
You want more insight into your specific project. Does that sound right? As opposed to
Ultimately,
generalized
yeah.
overview advice. Okay.
It does
Maybe
feel
someone from the Department of Building and Safety or the planning team can jump in with some more resources, but our departments do have virtual counters where you can speak with people in the departments via appointment, one-on-one about your specific project. But would someone from LADBS be able to speak a bit to some of the resources available to businesses that include being able to speak to someone one-on-one?
Yes, I can speak to that. Building and Safety has a program called the Restaurant and Small Business Express Program. That email that's here on the current page goes to that department. They are monitoring that email, but also can answer any specific questions. This program is currently free, and we recommend businesses to take advantage of that.
So just for some addition, that program for small businesses and restaurants assigns you essentially something like a caseworker who will help you through the process. So I think that can give some more one-on-one insight into your project. Okay, so I saw some additional hand raised, and just in the interest of time, I want to make sure we get to the others. But Tyler, please do email us at the email I sent you, which is the one for the Mayor's Office of Business, mayor.business@lacity.org, and we'll see if we can help sort out some of the email issues from your previous emails. Okay, I see that Julian Mahara, you have your hand raised. You should be able to unmute. Julian, are you able to unmute and ask your question? Okay, we'll move on to a written question while Julian is working on technical issues. An anonymous attendee asks, if an applicant did not finish the plan review on time, what happens? Or once we've applied, we have to finish on the required deadline. I think I can speak to that a little bit, but if any of the departments would like to chime in, please let me know. So the program is ending. The temporary authorizations are ending and expiring on July 31st. That does mean that on August 1st, enforcement is possible. It's enforcement is complaint based. So on August 1st, DBS will not be walking up and down the streets looking for violations. That's not how it works. It's a complaint-based system. And when inspectors go out to inspect complaints, they will be able to see if you are in the process of your application and take that into consideration on how to move forward. So it is to the benefit of your business to be in the middle of this process, even if it's not completed on August 1st. I hope that answers the question. If there's additional questions, please do follow up in the chat. Joanne Ceruto asks, is Westchester considered coastal? I'm not sure off the top of my head. Does someone know if Westchester is in the coastal zone?
According to the maps provided, it was on slide 10. It does show that Westchester is, but perhaps if we could be provided with an address, we could research that definitively.
Yes, thank you, Mary. That's a great point. If you're unsure, please feel free to email us with your specific location and we can clarify if it's in the coastal zone. I see Julian, you've raised your hand again. You should be able to unmute. Would you be able to ask your question?
Hey, sorry about that. Yes, just in regards to the previous question about parking requirements. Last year, we spoke with Jennifer Doyle at the Coastal Commission in August, and Coastal historically has had a much stricter parking requirement for restaurants. They indicated that they were not going to be reducing that parking requirement. Has that changed, or have they signified what direction they're going to be going in?
I think, I'm not sure if we have insight into this. Is anyone from one of our departments able to give a bit more insight about ongoing discussions or when answers can be expected?
Sure. I can address this, Denise. So, when it comes to parking reductions in the coastal zone, again, they're analyzed as part of the coastal development permit, and reductions in parking are specific to the proposed development, the site, and basically demand for that area. That's why it's analyzed as part of the CDP application. I'm not sure what discussion, the applicant may have had that you may have had with Coastal Commission staff at the time, but we recommend that you contact us at planning.alfrescocdp@lacity.org. We can schedule some time to chat about your specific project and the CDP process.
Okay. Yeah. At that time, it was in regards to transforming our required parking lot into a dining space, and they said that we would have to provide off-site parking for that requirement to offset that requirement.
Understood. Okay. We have time for one more question. Thank you, Julian. So our question is in written form from Nick Leathers. The question is, I joined late and may have missed this. Is there a difference between CDP waiver and a CDP programmatic program? Nick, the short answer is yes. The long answer was discussed during the webinar. Could someone from planning give a short overview? But for more detailed information, Nick, this webinar and the slides, as well as the recording, will be posted on the Build LA Alfresco website, which I'll pull up here at the end one more time. And in addition, the questions currently being asked will also be answered and shared on that website. So please follow up on the website. But could someone give a very brief 2-sentence overview on the differences between the waiver and the programmatic program?
Sure. Again, Juliet from City Planning. The short answer is that the CDP waiver is only effective until I believe the date was June of 2026. So after that time, any outdoor dining areas that we're transitioning will need a coastal development permit. Any new operator will need a coastal development permit. The programmatic CDP is one way to satisfy the requirement for a coastal development permit. So operators that are transitioning from the temporary program to the permanent program will either need to file a coastal development permit or perhaps opt into the programmatic coastal development permit. But again, that programmatic coastal development permit, that needs to go through additional study with the department. We don't really have a definitive sort of project scope or answer yet for the PCDP.
Great. Thank you, Juliet. We've come upon the end of the hour, so please, if you have additional questions, I will leave the Zoom open for another minute or so once we've closed out for you to be able to share your questions. And we will still work to answer those questions and post them online after this webinar. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about the program, and please do use the contact resources on our slides, which will also be posted online for follow-up